hello. This is an echo of glory. I'm usually see myself on that camera and I can't see anything. So I got
You're
thrown.
not missing anything.
There I'm not missing anything, but it threw me. We're back and we've won a football match and we're going to talk about it. Rejoice. Joining me for this is Jake Robson. Hello.
Hello.
Do that again.
Do what again?
Joining me is Jake Robson.
This is not good for people who listen in their cars. Joining me is Jake Robson. There he is. And joining me, James, is Gary Diamond.
Hello, good morning.
Hey.
Isn't he looking fresh-faced?
He came in all chipper this morning
Why is that, Gary?
because Spurs beat Southampton 3-1.
No,
That's not it.
Oh.
It's not, no. I've been to the gym this morning. Usually I go after the pod, and that's why I'm usually moody. But I've been already to the gym, got it done, got the endorphins flowing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Happy days.
happy days.
I should be so lucky.
Get yourself into the gym. When was the last time you went to the gym?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't go to the gym.
Jeez.
Why are you having a go at me?
I don't do gym. Don't do any of that rubbish.
Still play football though. When I've done my knee.
I was going
Playing
to say,
goal,
my
don't
knee.
you?
Playing goal.
aren't you out? Haven't you got to stretch out at the moment?
Yeah, I've got a knee injury.
Been training under Ange.
What's the prognosis? How many weeks?
6.
6 to 8, is it?
I'm blaming Ange.
Blaming
I'm blaming Ange for all injuries.
Your agent's been in the press.
What, Dragusin? Yeah,
It's
the
too much
Dragusin's agent's my agent. All right, that's enough having a go at the host.
Good weekend?
Double work session. I work Saturday,
Double
Sunday,
work.
which I don't normally do. And I looked at Spurs Southampton and I was like, I don't normally do this, but I'm not going to go to Spurs and I'm going to work instead. So I worked on the game and all the games yesterday.
All the games?
Yeah, well, there was 3 o'clocks and a 4:30.
What game were
Sorry,
you doing last night?
yesterday. No. Yesterday
We
was
didn't finish till
was
late.
Sunday.
Yeah,
3 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
2 o'clocks.
So how do you
Yeah.
work on all the games at once?
So we have the main game, which was Fulham-Liverpool. And we're also concentrating on Spurs, Southampton and Brentford-Chelsea. And if there's a goal at one of them, which there wasn't at Brentford-Chelsea, I just drop a note into our commentator who, when Johnson scores, we'll go, right, there's been a goal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, then we'll show it. And I'll just drop him a little stat. There you
For
go.
people in England, that this is the Goals Rush show. Is that what it's
Goal
called?
rush, yes. You won't get
Goal
that.
rush.
You won't get that in this country.
We can only dream.
Yeah. We finished late. That's why I couldn't go out for dinner with you last night. Sorry.
No, I thought you were working on Juventus Roma because
I watched a bit of that.
I was watching that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And I played
Juventus
poker.
Roma. What's the Premier League?
Yeah.
I don't know what you do. I thought you did all football.
I don't know what he does for
Mate,
a
you've
living
got
either.
you've got him conned. He does all. He's Mr. Football over here.
And
He works in the Premier League.
another poker win Saturday night, but we don't need to talk about
Saturday?
that. Yeah,
Thought it was
poker
Friday.
Good run.
Got moved. I'm on a great run. I'm in great form.
Great
I'm not
form.
going to lie.
The cards are running well.
Poker got moved to Saturday night, so that was my weekend. You went to a football match yesterday, but it wasn't Spurs. As a part of your job. Where were you?
I was at the game of the day. No doubt about it. Fulham Liverpool.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it really was wow.
Bit of a turn up, that wasn't it?
And I'm so
Such a
fickle.
good
I'm like,
atmosphere.
yeah, sod it, Marco Silva now.
Get him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And Sessegnon again?
Sessegnon again. Don't get me started on him.
No, go on. Give us what don't get you started.
Well, I was a lone voice, not in this room necessarily, just people hadn't seen Sessegnon play like I had because I've covered Fulham in the... I always forget if it's the 16th... When did we sign him? We signed him in loan.
18?
I can look it up. But anyway, there was a season where he scored 17 goals in the Championship. I want to say 17, 18. And he was playing the left of the midfield attacking three.
No, there wasn't any doubt that he's a highly talented player.
No. But we
it was-
signed him and played him at left back.
And
And
you were saying he should have been a left winger.
he is a left winger.
Well, Jake, he scored those 15 goals in the Championship.
15, was it?
17, 18 in the league.
League, yeah.
Yeah, and then 18, 19, I think, was it Ranieri who converted him to a sort of left back, more defensive, and that kind of stalled him. It wasn't just us.
but also
did
that
it.
season for Fulham was a shit show. That was another 3 managers in a season. They got relegated from the Premier League.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's gone back to Fulham and he's now scored
3 and 5,
2 in his last 2 home matches, and they are very
One goal away.
Huh?
1 goal away.
What do you mean?
Oh no, it was at home.
I know,
Wasn't
it was at home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so he scored 3 and 5
Yeah.
after scoring 3 in 68.
and the goal that he scored yesterday was very much was very similar to a lot of the ones he scored when I was watching him in the Championship.
Yeah.
He's just one of those players that ends up being in the right place at the right time, and his finishing's good. And I always said you can't really teach that. I mean, he was young in those days as well. He was about 17.
I see where this is going.
Well, it's so interesting.
I see where this is going.
Well, go on.
He's going to link it to one of ours.
Well, it's funny.
No, I didn't do that. Someone in our WhatsApp group did that. I never thought of that.
I wanted to talk
I just
about
thought
this.
that
You
I just
can't
thought
teach finishing, and that's so interesting. We're going to come to that.
Well, I always said it about a young. I was always amazed when Harry Kane burst onto the scene at Tottenham.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen him play much, and you just thought, and you thought, is he? He just keeps scoring and keeps scoring.
Mate.
And the one thing about him was that he
Could finish.
Yeah, but
Tap-ins
no,
and
he always happened to be in the right place to be able to have the chance. Okay, yes, he could finish, but you have to also be in that right place. And you just, some players just find themselves in this right place. And Sessegnon has that. And I think he got, and not necessarily the club's fault or his fault, the circumstances did not align for him at Tottenham, and it was a disaster. And it could have been different.
It got dragged out.
Yeah, and it could have been different. That's all.
All right.
You know, sorry, last on this, and I said this a lot about these young players that United sign. You know, when you go through 2 or 3 managers in quick succession, it's no good for a young player, a very young player that you've signed and you want potential and continuity. And
you wanted to get something else off your chest this morning.
I didn't really want to get it off my chest. It was a minor problem that I had over the weekend.
Right. Do you need to see a doctor?
The house, my house needs to see a doctor. I saw a mouse in the kitchen. In the kitchen.
Really?
In the cupboard.
A mouse or a rat?
No, it wasn't a
And
rat.
you live in London, so there's probably even like big.
No, it wasn't a rat because I saw it again this morning.
Still there
in the cupboard where like the dry food is. You know the classic cupboard where you've got kind of
How big was it?
It wasn't huge. But it looked bigger this morning than when I saw it last night. So I don't know if it had.
Did you scream and jump up on the kitchen chair?
No, I had to. No, I did. I opened the door and it does get you because especially when they move fast and it's run back into there's a hole at the back of the cupboard. So empty out the cupboard last night.
Still there.
Clean it. There was lots of droppings.
Is it still
yesterday.
there?
So this morning they weren't. It was still there this morning.
We
came back. I plugged the hole with lots of.
I
plugged the hole, but so the thing to do I thought was to plug the hole with lots of cloths,
Cheese.
Not cheese, cloth, and then stick tape over it.
Right.
But the tape was the wrong kind of tape, so it didn't stick. So it got lots of cloths there, and it's just come back through.
Mouse catching with Jake Robson.
What do I do next?
Well, we've got a cat, and it just brings them in and leaves them. So we've got experience.
Don't care about that. My parents used to have a cat when I lived at home. That's fine because you can just chuck it. The problem's dealt with. By then.
No, the cat just brings him in and doesn't care, and it's your problem.
If it's dead, it's not. Well, it's half dead, but it's not getting away. That's the problem.
As Pilch said, rats are like gooners. You're never more than 20 feet away from one.
I don't want to go down the traps route because then you really have because then you do have to. You have a mess to clean up.
No, you can get.
And I'm always worried about the poison route because what if it eats the poison and dies behind the wall? Then you've got a real problem.
This is taking a turn. We had a bat once. And we had our cat bought in a bat.
No way to speak.
Oh, a dead bat?
No, a live bat during COVID. My cat bought in a bat. And obviously bats were blamed for COVID. I mean, not in where we live in leafy Hertfordshire, but I was like, and I remember it was like 3 o'clock in the morning and you ring these people and it's like 24 hours and the bloke was like, yeah, I'm not coming around to
I'm not coming for a bat.
And I had to wake my wife up at like 3 a.m, and I think it took us over 2.5 hours to get rid of this thing. But 2.5 hours, 2 hours 25, plucking up the courage to deal with it. Yeah.
So the cat wakes you up at middle of the night.
I was awake. I was awake. It was COVID. I was probably just watching telly. Nothing else going on, and I just hear this noise. I was like, "That's not a normal noise." And it's bat just brought in.
A COVID bat in Hertfordshire.
Giorgio Pena wants to know what we talk about if we went on Thursday. Well, I imagine that we would talk about, I don't know, snakes and alligators. Have you ever seen one? Yeah, just a bit, you know.
All right, we get a
We'll
lot.
fill the time, Jorge. Don't worry about it.
We did have someone in our mentions once tell us to stop waffling at the front. So if you're listening to this episode,
this one's for you.
I'm really sorry. All right, there is a bit of club news.
Waffling at the back.
There is a bit of club news. Under 21s, they play Southampton away tonight. There was no game for the under 18s and there was no game for the women. There's your club news. Gary, you weren't on last week. Just want to get very briefly.
I was on last week.
Not Friday.
No, I was not on Friday.
Okay. You're in one of those moods today. Okay.
Always.
We played Chelsea. Obviously, we lost, and
We didn't really play them, did we?
we were there. We were in Chelsea, and we had the financial statement, and we had Ben White, who was a great guest on. We're going to put that out as a separate episode at some point. Just thoughts really on last week's events, the cupping of the ear.
I thought it was just quite a sad night for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club all round. I thought it was a bit embarrassing. Go up to Chelsea, who themselves are in bad form. And, we were speaking to Liv Bizaglo last Monday, and she was telling us that she was a little bit worried about it. If it had been any other team, she'd be very worried.
She was
about
right,
it.
because they were no good.
No, they weren't particularly good. They were not particularly good. But I think we tried to sort of impress upon her that she watches a lot of football, but how much of Tottenham she watches didn't seem that much on the basis that she thought we might be a threat. We weren't. We were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. And then, the incident with... I don't even want to get into the football. There was no football played. I just thought the whole thing was a shambles.
Yeah.
It was an absolute shambles.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing with Ange cupping his ear... I mean, he went on after the game about a VAR decision, completely ignoring the fact that they had a VAR goal ruled out at 1-0 for a toenail. It was a literal toenail. It was as tight as the one yesterday, the VAR decision. Yeah. And it would have been 2-0. And the Sarr goal may never have happened. And if it did, it would have been irrelevant anyway. But yet he made the whole thing about the Sarr VAR incident. Like, it was a clear as day foul. I genuinely think that the only thing that the delay was whether it was a red card. That's what I think the delay was. It can't have been anything else.
Oh, do you reckon?
That's what I reckon.
Interesting.
Because we're the only club. It's the only club. We're the only club to have had a VAR decision and picked up a booking off the back of it. I genuinely reckon that the whole delay was about whether or not it was a red card because
why else would it have taken so long?
It was a
clear foul.
Because it was a clear foul.
Obvious foul.
But I don't actually think that was Ange's issue. I think it was just the time that it took.
Exactly that. But if it had been explained, no, we cleared up the foul straight away. What we're now looking at is that a red card? And, number one, Ange wouldn't have had a leg to stand on with his VAR comment.
Well, he might not have minded so much.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the whole thing may have not been. So I think VAR need to communicate that better. But the incident of Ange cupping his ear... kind of like, it was a little bit like, when you catch your 6-year-old son with his hand in the cookie jar and he turns around and says, "This isn't what it looks like. I was getting the cookie from my brother because he hasn't had one yet." It was as ridiculous as that. Why lie? You're lying, mate. It's pathetic. You're not a 6-year-old boy. Own it. The fans were booing the substitution and you were giving it back to them. Fine. Own it. I wanted to hear them cheer. Nonsense. What utter nonsense.
How would you have felt if he'd said, "You know what? I bought on Sarr because I'm the manager and I'm in charge. He scored a goal, and I was a little bit annoyed."
Do you know, funnily enough, I don't think it was Sarr that the fans were booing coming on.
Oh, no, it wasn't. No. It was the fact he...
No, it was the wrong substitutions. He bought off Bergvall and Odegaard. Yeah. And I said at the time, I was watching on TV, and I said, "Great, he's bought off our best two players." Right? It wasn't about...
Oh, no, I know that. But I'm just saying, how would you have felt if he'd gone, "I'm in charge, I made the subs, the bloke I bought on scored a goal, and I wanted to tell him."
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You'd have been within your rights.
Yeah.
Except it wasn't a goal and you went too soon and you made yourself look rather silly.
He did make himself look silly.
And what the other thing was? Off the back of a dreadful performance, what I would have rather Ange done, even if that had been a goal, would have been to say, maybe we've got ourselves out of jail here, maybe I'll have a bit of humble pie and just be have a bit of humility and say that was not a good performance and the fans had every right to be upset. And I could understand they were disappointed with bringing off Bergvall and Odegaard, who had great games. I could understand that. Just grow up a little bit, Ange. It's pathetic.
And what about the financial statement? Any thoughts on
that? Less on the financial statement itself. I think that there's been some interesting conversations on Twitter, and I've been looking into a few things. One of the things that I've been looking at is since 2019, so over the last 5 years, we are I think it's the third or fourth highest spend club in the Premier League, as well as net spend.
Net spend, yeah.
Net spend and actual expenditure, third or fourth highest. And I'll put this into context in a minute because there's a lot of talk about money and the spending of it. There's a lot of talk about the fact that we are 7th in the league at the minute on wages. But actually, over the last 4 or 5 years, on average, we're spending a season in the transfer market 75 million and more on average than Liverpool. And Liverpool's wages are only 17.5 million more than ours. And people are continue to come back to spend more money, and that's great. Like, I agree. If there's more money to spend, absolutely spend it. It should be spent, right? But it's clearly not about just spending money, because
But don't forget the wages would have changed with losing Kane and losing
absolutely.
this one and
But this
losing
is the
that one.
point, right? Is that actually it's only in the last season that we're 17.5 million lower. Previous to that, it probably would have been much closer to Liverpool's. Okay, so we're spending. So people are talking about why would Spurs be an attractive job for a manager? Well, if I'm a manager and I've got, let's say, Liverpool and Tottenham, put all the history aside, right? But just on face value, you're going, right, Spurs, we're going to spend 75 million a year more than Liverpool. We might be 10 to 17 million less on wages, but we spend 75 million more. And all you've really got to do is finish top four, maybe win a trophy. That would be great. You'll be a hero. Or Liverpool, we're going to spend 75 million less than Tottenham, but you've got about 15 million more on wages, and you've got to win the league, the Champions League, and these are the expectations. I'll be like, sod that. I'll go Tottenham, thank you very much. Of course you would. Right, so my point is, and then you look at United, who are blitzing everybody in the transfer market, and they're nowhere. So it comes back to the point of, the demonstrations yesterday. I understand it. I get it. We're all frustrated. But the money has been spent. The money is continuing to be spent. The money is there, as Liverpool are demonstrating. Newcastle, who are below us on transfers and wages. Villa. All these clubs are achieving more than us at the minute, spending less money. So it's not just about the money. It's about the philosophy and the continuance and the cohesion of the football club that hasn't been there. And if there is one thing to say about Ange, we spoke about this when it came to the appointment in that summer. Whoever came in may not be the manager to bring us success. They're going to be the manager to oversee a change in philosophy, a change in style, a change in DNA,
Do you believe
a change
that's
in
happened?
recruitment practice. I think so. I think when you look at the players that we're bringing in, the youth that we're bringing in, the type of player that we're bringing in, I do think we're going down a path. I think the worst thing we could do now, when Ange does go, would be to bring in a Marco Silva type of manager who isn't as much possession-based, pressing, and so on. I think we need to continue along that path. So
we talked.
This isn't. This is. I don't know where this. There is a myth that Marco Silva doesn't play high
I
pressing
plucked
game.
him out the top of my head, to be honest.
Oh no, but this is why I not that I necessarily want him, but I don't see him as a particularly worse option than any of the other ones.
But whatever it is, I do think we need to stick to the policy of what we're doing. And then I think as the next phase will be to add, people are saying even then, we won't spend 100 million on a player. I think when you're spending 100 million on a player, for any club, that represents a massive risk. Massive, massive risk. You've seen it with the likes of Ndombele at 55 million and what an anchor he was to the club for as long as he was there. Similarly, Lo Celso. There is a huge risk. I don't think it is about going and spending 100 million. You could say it at the moment, right? You could take a look at Juan Sebastian Veron as one of the best midfielders in the world at that time. I'm using him as an example, right? Because that's just what's coming into my head. And in today's market, you could go, oh my God, we're going to sign Veron for £100 million. Oh my God, we're going to win everything. And he flopped. Or you could say, oh my God, we're going to sign Andrei Shevchenko for £100 million. He's the best striker in the world. And he flopped. The same summer, we signed Berbatov for £10 million. They signed him for 50, 60 million pounds, Shevchenko. Shevchenko flopped, Berbatov flourished. It's not always about the money that you're spending.
Of course it's not. It's about clever recruitment.
It's about how you're doing it. And then the coaching go behind it.
We spoke to, before this show, we recorded a show with Kevin Hatchard, brilliant German football expert, and it was going to go out as a separate show this week, previewing the Eintracht Frankfurt game. He talked about, it's a bit different in Germany because they don't have that much money to spend, but in relative terms, Eintracht's problem in the last few years has been their recruitment. They didn't sign enough mid-ranking players. They've got Goetze experience. They've bought a lot of experience, which we probably don't have, and a lot of youth. But what they didn't have was that blend of mid-range players. And I think that Tottenham have got a similar problem. We've talked about it quite a lot in the last few months.
But
surely, we need a bit of experience, some good youth, but it's finding.
But then what was Dom Solanke?
Yeah, I think he would come down as
he is that, but we need
experience.
more. I think
No,
him
I
on
get
his
that.
own.
Yeah, probably the mid range actually.
Yeah, he ticks that box.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I've sort of said this before. We signed. We made 2 or 3 signings at that age, at that category, and it might have only needed. Who we signed? Bergville. We signed Gray.
Odebear.
And Odebear. And it sort of felt like whichever way around you look at it, that was probably one young player too many, and he could have swapped them for. But anyway, surely this summer that's where that will be addressed.
But the point that I make overall is the money that we're spending has been proven by other clubs to be more than enough to achieve success if the philosophy and the cohesion of the club is correct, which is why I sort of feel like have your levy out protest, but actually, you know, when you take a look at this whole thing about we're only spending 42% wages to revenue, but when you throw in the transfers as well, I'm told from people who deal with numbers much better than I am, we're actually about 67% of revenue, of spend to revenue, and the max is 70. So already on that cusp. So there's not actually a whole load of leeway in what you can do. So this is why when it comes to the protest yesterday, I'm all for demanding more, demanding better. Yeah. But another person comes in, they don't have so much headroom to do much more than what Levy's doing at the moment. And I know you're going to get a load of Levy apologists, this, that, the other. But break it down and actually look at it, okay? And I might be wrong in this. I don't think the money that we're spending is the problem. I think how it has been spent and the lack of cohesive philosophy behind it is the big problem.
It's a lot less about money for me, and it always has been. Lord Van Dingo here talking about Thomas Frank, saying maybe we don't talk about Frank and Silva in glowing terms enough. For me, it's not, whoever the manager is, it's so much about recruitment. I'm so bored of saying this, but I'm going to say it again. When I talked about the Forest team, if I said to you, this is your team for the season, off you go, you'll be like, who's Milenkovic? Who's this guy? Ryan Yates in midfield. Yes, they could be a flash in the pan this season, but to be a flash in the pan for one season at the moment. It's so much about coaching and recruitment, and we've got it wrong this season. Ollie's been on here ad nauseum talking about a terrible transfer window in the summer. When you look back, yeah, maybe it was, because it was possibly not one youth player too many, not enough first team ready players. But whatever it is, we still shouldn't be. Where are we at the moment? 15.
Yeah, I don't agree with Ollie about last summer being as terrible as he says.
I think
because I think if the injuries, I'm not blame whatever about, but the injuries. Had we not had as many injuries, I think we look at our squad, and actually I think the squad is decent enough. Well, it's definitely decent enough to be better than where we are in the Premier League, but no one's denying that. I actually think it's decent enough to be in at least
top 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we want more than that.
So therefore, I don't think it's right to say it was an appalling transfer window, because actually our squad is not that bad.
This squad should be top 8 with a better manager. We'd be probably 5th or 6th.
So one of our viewers, Dean, has just put, we're spending 180 million on 7 mainly average players rather than 2 or 3 ready-made quality players. But this is the point, right? Is everybody's banging on about not enough money is being spent. Cut it whichever way you want. It's still 180 million spent, so it's not the money. It's not the money that's the problem. That's my point that I'm making here, right?
Well, I guess the issue is taking.
But I guess how it's being spent, right? And the philosophy behind that.
But it's two ways of looking at it, because I get what you're saying. I don't know where I stand on it, to be honest. But what your point is a risk. If you could spend 180 million on 2 players, and you're potentially taking a much bigger risk than spreading it across 5 or 6. But then
I'm not
risk
advocating,
reward, right?
I'm not advocating for one or the other.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying that it should be done this way or that way. What I do think that's happened since 2019, when we've spent a lot of money, basically since we got in the stadium, is the philosophy of managers has changed. You've gone from win now managers to a Nuno to a Postecoglou. Like, there's been no coherence. There's been no continuity in what we've been trying to do. So whether you spend 180 million on 2 or 3 players, or whether you spend that on 5 or 6 players, that's not really my point. My point is whatever the club decides to do, however they choose to go forward, is something they need to stick with. And that doesn't mean necessarily sticking with Ange, but it does mean another manager that comes in and is committed to whatever process it is that we're doing, whether it is youth and development of youth and playing that attacking front foot football, or whatever it is, it's got to stick to that.
Well, it has to be someone with a similar playing.
You can't go from Ange back to a Mourinho type,
yeah.
right? We've just got to stick with whatever we're doing. And I think with the money that's being spent, if we stick with whatever we're doing and we have the right coaching and the right infrastructure behind it through the coaching team, the medical team, and so on, we'll get there. Because for me, it's not the money or the amount of money that's the problem. It's how it's being spent and what we're doing with it.
What about Beyonce?
I'm not letting you go there. That was blowing up in our WhatsApps, you going on about concerts and stuff.
I wasn't me going on about concerts. It was the protesters going. People at the protest. If anyone thinks that Beyonce having a concert at Tottenham is a problem, they are the problem. They don't understand
well,
finances or how football works.
Sorry, and just last point on Dean. that's exactly the point I'm making, right? The protest yesterday should have been about demanding more from the chairman and board in terms of having a structure and a philosophy and how we're spending the money. But I think where it's going wrong is I think a lot of people are getting caught up in the actual amount of money, wanting I want Roman Abramovich or Abu Dhabi to come in. But football's not like that anymore. And nobody's able to do that. As you're saying with Newcastle, it has to be about having that cohesive philosophy in how you're spending it. And that's what the protest should have been about, is the board have not been good enough with enough direction and enough conviction to follow a path. And that's the problem.
Before we come on to Southampton, I want to read a few comments, or I say that, but my YouTube's just gone absolutely haywire. So I don't think
that's the other thing. Follow on from what you're saying, one of the headlines was this chant, "Can Beyonce play up front?" And that's kind of taken away from what perhaps was a more important issue, and it's the direction,
Correct.
And the thing is, people use that kind of thing as a stick to beat the club with, as they're not happy with the direction the club's going in. You have to go in that direction.
Correct.
It has to be a form of revenue to use your stadium.
Absolutely. Who says it here? Adam Flanagan.
Means.
People forget at White Hart Lane we hosted boxing in the
Of course
London
we
Monarchs.
did. Of course we did.
And we one of the most tragic boxing events at the old White Hart Lane. Right? People forget
Eubank
Ben. But this
no,
is,
that wasn't tragic.
No, it wasn't.
You got confused. Watson, Michael Watson.
Sorry,
yes,
right.
that was
Michael
the one
Watson.
at White Hart Lane. Yeah.
This happened at White Hart Lane. Football stadiums should be event stadiums as well, particularly with the advent of PSR, when it is so important to bring in revenue. And people are screaming, spend more money, but don't have events at the stadium. I mean, the whole messaging behind it, I completely agree with demanding more from the club, completely agree with that, right? And if they're not prepared to do it and take the risks, then move on and bring in somebody that will. But whoever comes in, I can assure you,
100%.
will not be able to spend much more money than they're spending at the moment. It is not about the money being spent.
And they're not going to get rid of the other events that happen at that stadium.
They'll amplify them.
I think if your club or your stadium doesn't have other events, it's more a slight on what you're doing as a club. Than
anybody
than
that comes in will have to. The events is only going to get amplified, right? It is a money-making machine. That's what it was designed to be. I get that people don't like that. I understand.
Needs to be.
I understand people's frustrations with it, but absolutely it needs to be that. And so just to wrap this up before you, because I think you've got your YouTube back. Just to wrap this up, protest, yes. But I just think that the messaging in the protest is getting lost, because I think a lot of the messaging in the protest is we're not winning enough games, we're unhappy, and it all comes down to the money being spent. But it's not the money being spent. Other clubs are achieving a tremendous amount more, spending significantly less. So it's not the money being spent. The money we're being spent is enough to bring success if it is spent in the right way with a clear philosophy. So get the messaging right. Demand more. Demand better from the board. Not just want you to spend more money.
Look, I think Change for Tottenham are doing a really good thing. I won't join in protest, not because I'm leaving in. It's not for me.
You don't like walking.
As we said, I don't like going to the gym. It's not for me. But absolutely, if that's what you want to do,
get your a little golf buggy to ride behind.
And just to take this back, because a couple of people on the comments are mentioning, Zaha, Nelson. I think you've got to separate whatever was going on in the old White Hart Lane to what's going on now, which is why I went back as far as sort of 2018, 2019 and the new stadium, even with COVID in the middle of that, okay? Before the new stadium, the transfer philosophy was obviously going to be a lot different. Take a look at our spend. I urge anybody to take a look at our spend, both on transfers and wages, since we're moving into the new stadium. It's skyrocketed.
Gaz,
there is no doubt that it's gone shooting up. Don't look at what happened in the past, because that is the past under a different system. We are now in a stadium generating revenue. So,
look, people who go Zaha and Nelson, I understand that we were pushing for this and that, and we signed Zaha and Nelson. We've had some terrible transfer windows, but the same people who will say that, possibly even me included, we'll sign in Ndombele and Lo Celso for a lot of money, and you'll go on YouTube and go, oh my God, look at this player. We've made big signings that have failed. We've made signings you've gone, why have we signed that player? And they've been successes. It's about getting it right now,
also,
because quite clearly in the last 5 years it's not been right.
I have no doubt that Harry Redknapp would have been perfectly happy with signing someone like Louis Saha, right? They're very Harry Redknapp signings, and he may make a joke about it now, but Louis Saha was a decent Premier League striker.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think.
I think anybody coming in, I just.
I understand your point. I don't think that's going to fly. With,
No, I don't think it's gonna
with
fly.
the
No,
viewers,
but in
I get it.
hindsight, but it's a very easy to
No,
say
in
in
hindsight, it was
hindsight.
still a crap window.
Yeah, no, it was in hindsight, but at the time, I mean, yeah.
Right, I want to read some comments. Just going back to the squad that we talked about. Dave D. Ange got rid of a lot of senior players because they have too many skeletons in the closet from past failures. Okay, too bad he can't turn over a few fans the same way. I mean, Dave, we're 14th in the Premier League and have lost 19
And
games.
to be fair, Dave, he did turn over fans in the same way right at the beginning, and even all the way through to the end of last season, and even through to maybe 10, 15 games into this season. So
Yeah.
I think Ange was given a more than fair crack of the whip. So let's not go down that route. He was given a very fair crack of the whip.
Yeah, and Illimatic says Spurs have not won a title in 64 years and we haven't won an FA Cup in 34. The rock goes deep. I think that's what we're saying. We all want success, and we've been close. We've got to a Champions League final, which nobody could ever have imagined. If you said to me growing up, you'll be in a Champions League final in 2019, I would have laughed you out of town. But we all want success for Spurs, and it started yesterday with a 3-1 win against Southampton.
This is it.
Nice segue.
Big week.
Big success.
Great success.
Great success.
Big week.
So, all right, let's move it on from that chat. Yesterday's lineup was thus: Vicario in goal, Porro, Romero, Davies and Spence, Baival, Bentancur, Maddison, Johnson, Solanke and Son. So the players in with a Welsh duo from memory. Johnson and Davies and Porro came in. Out when Udogie, Odebear and Van der Ven, whose minutes are being managed. Straight away, you always get that when the team gets announced. Oh, why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? Well, people were a bit annoyed that Tell didn't play, and Gray potentially in midfield. I think those were the two takeaways from the starting 11. Thoughts on that? Would you have wanted to see Tell start?
I would have wanted to see Tell, but straight away my mind goes to, well, who's playing instead of him? Son. Well, there must be a reason why he's playing Son. He's not just trying. Whether it, and to me, it was maybe he wants Son to get a run out against Southampton, maybe try and get in, get a goal,
goals, yeah.
Get some confidence going. He's obviously lacking a bit of confidence. I'm not going to say get an easy goal, but that to me, that's why, because obviously to play Tell would have been and maybe he was a bit worried about making too many changes because we had it against Fulham. He made 7 and we looked like a team that had made 7 changes, and sometimes you can get it wrong. So I would have liked to see Tell, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, he should play Tell. There was obviously some thinking, and actually he took Son off. And the other thing was, well, he's not going to play Son for most of the, for much of the game, relatively. 57 minutes, Son comes off. So he obviously wanted to give him 55 minutes an hour and say,
but
thank
he
you
didn't
very
come
much.
off for Tell, which was odd.
He didn't come off for Tell, but there was obviously some method to why Son was playing, and it was obviously to give him some more minutes, get some confidence into him. Maybe he feels Son is better to start than coming off the. If a player low on confidence, bringing him on for 20 minutes at the end probably doesn't help unless he gets a goal. It's difficult to get into a game, that kind of thing.
I'm surprised he didn't start him. Not because I think he's been wonderful, just I think it's the perfect game for him to get.
I totally
70
agree with
minutes
that,
under his
but I'm
belt,
just
yeah.
saying, once that decision had been made, I looked at it from the other way around. I was 100% thinking that Tell was going to start.
Yeah. Gaz, were you surprised?
I didn't mind Son starting.
Yeah.
I mean, people will say, well, how can you say this after he scored 2 goals? I did mind Johnson starting. I thought Tell should have started ahead of Johnson. But that's just me. I see a front 3 of Johnson, Son and Solanke, and it's a bit like, well...
Yeah, but Southampton
Wow.
at home. That's what I
but
thought.
that's my point. It's Southampton at home, and with the greatest will in the world, we all know what Johnson's going to do in any given game. He is going to fart around doing absolutely nothing until he pops up in the box and sticks one in, because he is a very good finisher, and he has that knack of getting into the box. Johnson did exactly what Johnson does against... And I don't even think it's about, Southampton's his level. That's what Johnson does. Put the ball in the box and Johnson will pop up and score a goal. He's great at it. I just wish he could play the football outside the box as well. I think he had I don't know. I'm not a stats man. I suspect he had the fewest touches of any Spurs player. I suspect he probably had the fewest touches of any outfield player.
I know a stats man, and he's got the answer.
Right. That's my suspicion. And so, whether I'm right or wrong, I reckon it's there or thereabouts with the fewest touches of any outfield player between Spurs and Southampton.
I don't.
You
disagree
are
with you,
correct,
but
Gary.
Hang on. Wait. Go on.
What of anyone to play 90 minutes? Brennan Johnson had the fewest touches. Yeah.
Right.
I don't think that's abnormal for a winger, though.
Well, I think it is. Because,
No, it isn't.
Really?
Forward players have the fewest touches in a game.
No, I mean,
Defenders have the most, don't they?
Solanke,
Centre-backs,
Solanke
yeah.
I could understand.
Solanke had 33 and played 5 minutes less, maybe 10 minutes less.
Right. I mean, so I could understand a striker having fewer touches, but I would expect a winger to be very much involved in the sense of, they should be getting the ball off the fullback, knocking it back to the fullback. They should be getting touches. I'm not saying take-ons, runs, beating men.
Yeah.
They should be getting touches. For a winger, in my view, to have the fewest touches on the pitch. And
but this brings us back to our old friend.
And I think back to Fulham when Tell did start on the right, and he was our outlet, and he was the one that took the game to them. And actually, I thought he had a very good game against Fulham. People might see that differently. I thought he was one of the few positives of that game. And I think if you're talking about confidence and so on, we know what Johnson can do. We know that if you start him, he's either going to pop up and score a goal and be a hero, or he's not going to score a goal and you'll wonder, was he even playing? Right? That's basically Brennan Johnson. Tell against Southampton really could have found his feet at home, driving at them, taking them on. That's the kind of player that he is. That's a confidence game against a crap team, and my God, were they bad. They were dreadful, right? But give Tell that opportunity. He's a talented player. Give him that opportunity. That was my point. That was my only thing. The Gray thing over Bentancur, take it, leave it, whatever at this point. But yeah, I mean, I think Lord Van Dingo here says, so Johnson's a Gary Lineker then. Well, fine, but in the days that Gary Lineker was playing, football wasn't as systematic. This goes a little bit to what Neville was saying yesterday. Football has become so systematic. Players are so ingrained. They're like robots.
In their roles.
Yeah, and you don't have Mavericks anymore. So you can't carry a Gary Lineker anymore because he wouldn't have had a role in a modern day team, I don't think, as great a finisher as he was. But similarly, you can't have a David Ginola anymore because he's not going to play to a system. He's just going to stand there, wait for you to get in the ball.
Looking all
He
handsome
ain't
and
going to
stuff.
press, is he?
looking gorgeous. And with his flowing locks and was it
You don't
Vidal?
see flowing hair anymore either.
Because he's worth it.
It's gone out of the game.
Paul Walsh,
Paul Walsh.
another one.
Loved Walsh.
Yeah, but you don't get these players anymore, and this is what Neville was talking about yesterday. So this is the point with Johnson is if
So he's a system player then.
well, no, he's,
Get it in the
but I
box
don't-
and
This is what I was
No,
going to
but
say.
if you
I
don't get
don't
in the
think.
box and-
I don't think it's. I think you may be right, but we don't know.
Well, Ange
The
basically alluded
Fulham's-
to it. Ange basically alluded to it yesterday because he said after the game, "We've let Brennan down this season because he makes those runs and we haven't found him enough." It's like we've let Brennan down. Really?
Well, I just think
That's
that
worrying
I
to
don't
me.
know. I think you're splitting. Not. I'm not trying to defend Johnson, but I think you're splitting hairs a bit to say I would tell should have definitely played instead of Johnson. He should just play instead of Son. Like Johnson, this is a rotation game in between.
I agree with that.
With the big game on Thursday, it's a classic Brennan Johnson game. This isn't it?
Yeah, fine.
And Tell should have just played on the other side.
You're right.
Basically.
To be fair, the reality is against Southampton, we're probably going to get the ball into the box a number of times, and therefore there's a good chance that Johnson's going to pop up with a goal. Okay, so you're probably
But also,
right.
he's not going to start on Thursday, so give him 90 minutes.
Fine.
It's easy.
I take
easy.
that. I take that on board. You're probably right. I just really can't stand watching Brennan
Right.
Johnson, even though he scored 2 very good goals.
But you can say fair play, well done for scoring 2 nice goals.
Scored
and
2
winning.
great goals. What he does, he gets in the box and he goes. I think defenders must just forget he's on the pitch. No, I think that's what happens. They're just like, I don't need to mark anyone here. Oh God, I forgot about him because he's so redundant that they just go to sleep.
It's a fascinating one. You mentioned at the top of the show, I can't even now remember who we were talking about just scoring goals. What were we talking about? I can't remember.
We were talking about Sessegnon.
So there's a stat here that Brennan Johnson, so he's got 16 goals now in all competitions. He's the first Tottenham player to score 15 or more goals in all competitions in a season other than Harry Kane or Son.
Yeah.
Since Gareth Bale in 2021. you can't. Well, you said you can't teach finishing. You can't teach finishing. And I remember about a year ago, I said about Johnson, you can't.
Well, you can't teach getting in the right place.
You can't. No,
That's the other
you
thing.
can't really coach that. But you can coach. You can't coach either courage, and I don't think he has it when he's taking players on.
Correct.
And you can't make people better. A better dribbler, you just can't, especially at that level.
Yeah.
Now he is what he is, unfortunately, but he does have 16 goals. It's such a conundrum because, as you say, Gaz, sometimes you wonder whether he's on the pitch. And almost yesterday, but he's come. We've all played football matches and gone, well, we lost 5-3. But I got 2 goals. I've done my bit.
I should have had a hat trick.
But this is the thing is without knowing the stats, I knew because I watched the game and I was like, if you told me Brennan Johnson had only touched the ball twice and scored 2 goals, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have been surprised.
I know what you mean. As Illimatic says, he's such a confusing player, great at specific things.
It's probably
but
why
lacking
he's
in
fallen
familiar.
out of favour in terms of he's not going to start on Thursday. It's a big game on
No,
Thursday.
he won't start on Thursday.
Odobert, I imagine, will start
I
on the
agree.
right. And Odobert's been injured for most of the season. And he hasn't really had to do an awful lot in order to
get in.
become the number one. I mean, Kulusevski's injured, obviously, but yeah.
All right, so in between the Johnson goals, 1-0 becomes 2-0, but doesn't. What was it like in the ground, Gary? It was a 4-minute, 49-second VAR delay.
Well, before we get to that, I just want to state that as bad as Southampton were, they could have gone 1-0 up.
Oh, yeah, the back posts.
Yeah.
Once again.
They very easily probably should have gone
Yeah.
1-0 up.
Yeah.
And as bad as Southampton were, and this is, I'll come to your question in a minute, but as bad as Southampton were, they could have come away with a point.
No.
Well, they could have done. They should have scored that goal at the back post. They got the goal in the 85th minute. Well,
we did phone in the second half, which we'll come to in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So to your point, the VAR thing was it was bad. It was bad because I think often you look for the reaction of players, and Southampton all thought it was a goal. They all walked back to the halfway line. They were going mad at one another. You didn't mark. You didn't do this. No, it didn't even cross my mind that it might be offside. It didn't even cross my mind. And so then to sit and wait for as long as it is, and the guy next to me said, the problem is, the longer it goes on, the more chance that they're going to disallow it because they need to justify the delay. And make of that what you will. But it did feel like they were really, really, it went on and on. They were like, we're going to have to disallow this.
I think that's
like,
too
cynical.
Cynical and yeah.
But it was not well received on the ground.
But
Not because it was disallowed, but because of how long it
he's
took.
trying to make. I don't think it's the longer it goes on, the more likely because they have to look like they've been doing something. I think the longer it goes on, the more likely because they're unsure.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why they're looking at it for so long. And I just think it would, if they had the referees mic'd up talking to each other, the crowd could hear it, and then everybody's in on it, so everybody knows what's being said, what the thought process is.
Clarity.
It happens in cricket, it happens in rugby.
But the thing is with cricket,
it's got to be the next step. I think it has to be the next step. I think it will be at some point.
But the thing is with cricket is everybody knows the process, right? And everybody knows.
Yeah, it's a very clearly defined process.
It's a very defined process. It's going to take about 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah.
They go to is the ball in? Has it pitched in line? And then the next one is snicker or the trying to find no contact on the bat. I can see. And then the next one is ball tracking.
Yeah.
But they may well have a similar steps.
I hear it. There is a process.
Yeah, and they check that and this and this.
It just took a long time. It was so tight. But actually, I think the failing yesterday was on the reverse angle of from behind Romero. It's offside, and it took him a long time to get there.
It was the same against Chelsea, though. You know, Chelsea went 2-0 up, and for my liking, it was a goal. I was like, we're 2-0 down.
The rule with yesterday's one, the rules don't help.
Well, for me, a forward is always going to be leaning forward to attack towards the goal, and there has to be some grace. But anyway, from this weekend, we've got semi-automated offside in the Premier League.
Happy days.
Who's that going to mess up?
Yeah, we'll lose to Wolves anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Is it semi-automated from this weekend then?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Hopefully that will make things a lot better because I don't trust the Lions. I do trust technology.
They had an issue in the FA Cup, Bournemouth against Wolves, was semi-automated. It took far too long.
I did it.
Yeah.
They did a briefing last Friday, and the thing with the semi-automated is not to get decisions more correct. It's just to speed it up because as it stands, they are the amount of the success rate on the decisions currently is not going to be any higher with the semi-automated. It is about, they said it's about 99% correct. It's just the speed.
Fine, so then that's good.
That's it.
I mean, but I just trust.
As long as the technology doesn't fail.
But I just generally trust technology a lot more than I trust people. So.
Well, the semi-automated will be much quicker, for sure.
And I also, we've all seen these lines, and I'm like, I swear to God, the red line starts pretty close to the blue line, and at the other end of the pitch is like 5 yards away from it. What's going on here?
Yeah.
I just don't trust it, to be honest with you. But the semi-automated is a system where if it comes in, I'm very prepared to give it a go. Well, if it works, whatever it is, I'm prepared to give it a go. I think where technology can make the game better, it should be used. But at the moment, VAR is not working, so let's see how it goes with semi-automated.
As someone mentioned in the comments, we did have a couple of other chances in the first half. Romero had 2 good headers, one straight in the face of Aaron Ramsdale, so I'm sure everyone enjoyed that.
Yeah. I thought Ramsdale had a good game. I actually thought he was their standout player.
He's a good goalkeeper.
He's a good goalkeeper.
He's been relegated 3 times.
No, he's a good goal. I think he's a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, he's a good goalkeeper. So we go into half-time 2-0 up. And yeah, I can understand taking your foot off the pedal. Nobody wants to get injured for Thursday. But my God, did they phone in that second half, or Southampton came out with a different plan? Fair play to them. They didn't want to get relegated yesterday. They knew it was coming. But you could tell after 5 minutes of the first half, I messaged Dolly, it was like, this is just moribund. Like,
but it's 2-0 up against a team that's relegated. I mean, going into Thursday, I mean, what do you expect? I think also if it wasn't Southampton who at that point we had relegated, it may have been different.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah.
But Ange actually said in his post-match he wasn't happy with the second half performance. So I think I wonder whether that's right, Jake. I think he wanted to see more, and there just was nothing in that second half.
Yeah, but he was right. But I'm just saying that I think the players, the general. That was obviously
I think sometimes they owe it to the fans, especially the 60-odd thousand. Just play.
I didn't mind if the game plan had been to sit in, stay tight, and hit them on the break.
Right, that's what I thought.
Then I wouldn't mind.
But we didn't.
We did it like once with Son, and he made an awful decision. But if it had been, we're sitting in, and every couple of minutes we were out, and we were hitting them on the break with real aggression, I'd have been fine for that. Yeah. A slightly different way of playing, a bit more conservative, save your energy, haven't got to dictate the game all the time. I'd have been fine. But it was, to be honest with you, I sat there, I was with my daughter. I'll be completely honest with you. She had a sleepover the night before at friends, and she came over the next morning. I said, listen, if you're too tired and you don't fancy it today, it's all right. Don't worry about it. She's like, no, I want to go. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, I want to go. Oh, okay. Like, I was like that, so we went, and I'm pleased that we did. But I sat there the second half. I sat there like this. And you know me at football, I'm normally hands on knees, leaning forwards, like rocking
backwards and forwards.
Yeah, like I sat there like this in the sun, chilled as you like. I could have been in the park watching a Sunday league game. It was at that tempo with the atmosphere like that.
You could hear the players talking to each other. There was more energy in the Milan Spurs over 50s game, whatever that was.
My daughter turned around to me at one point and said, "Is that?" And keep in mind, where we are is East Upper, sort of just in front of the penalty area, so towards the south stand, right? So Vicario second half was all the way down the other end. And my daughter turned around to me and went, is that Vicario I can hear? It's like, yep. it was that quiet. But I don't blame the fans for that.
No.
I think everybody's just pretty given up on the league, and it just, people talk about wanting to protest. Honest to God, I wouldn't blame anybody if they didn't go to another league game this season. It's just
I'll level
dead.
With you, I'm thinking about it.
Like it's just apparently there were 10,000 tickets on the exchange yesterday, and you can see why it was absolutely dead.
It's interesting seeing the difference, and we say this on the pod. Going to games, doing this pod, whatever, doesn't make us better or bigger fans. It's just a different experience going to games. And I think a lot of people, Adam Nathan, a few guys who'd been to the game yesterday, coming out going, that was dreadful. I hated it. One of the worst performances I've seen in a long time.
What, yesterday?
Yeah.
I think Adam Nathan's point was that it was, as a sporting spectacle, dreadful.
Yeah. But some people are going, stop moaning. It's a win. It's important. Get behind them. I think sometimes... And were you not entertained? Well, no.
I
think
wasn't.
you go to games and you want a little bit more, and you expect a little bit more. And I thought the performance was pretty abject, if I'm honest. Southampton got back in the game. We got problems at the back post. Had it against not just all season, but not just this week. against Chelsea, twice against Southampton. The one they hit the post, they 3 people queuing up at the back post.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty disingenuous to have expected an awful lot more from yesterday's
Why?
game. Because of Thursday. That's it.
I think with the way we're
Don't
playing.
care what Ange said after the game. Like,
But do you know something?
It was always
actually?
going to be that
Do you know
way.
something?
The only thing we needed to do yesterday was not lose and win reasonably well, which we won comfortably.
For me, looking at yesterday, I'm going, well played. You've turned Southampton over. I've seen energy. I've seen this. I've seen that. That gives me confidence for Thursday. You're right. Having more in the tank might be better for Thursday in the players' legs. As a fan, I'm looking at yesterday going, I see nothing for Thursday.
I will put in one caveat, which is that I have not seen a worse Premier League team ever at our stadium than Southampton.
That's not a very hot take. The facts bear that out.
Yeah.
Well, earliest Premier League
Yeah.
relegation, you can see why. They were, you talk about us being abject, I mean, they were dreadful. And so there is sometimes like, well, you can only really beat what's in front of you. And we didn't really need to get out of reverse to beat them.
That's yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, literally, it's not, we didn't even get to neutral.
Sunday driver.
We could, exactly. We could have played like, going backwards, we'd still beating them. Like, they were dreadful. They really were. And so I will say that as a caveat. I don't know that I necessarily blame the players or even Ange for the performance. I think it's just the state of the season, and maybe looking ahead to Thursday, there is the argument that, get the tempo in your legs, really run, get that ball moving, ping it about. Same time though, Southampton weren't there to try and stop us pinging it about. So it's like, what can you do? Like in the first half, it was attack versus defence. It was. I said to my daughter and the guys sitting there, I was like, literally, this is a training match.
Yeah,
it was pitiful from Southampton.
You talk about training match. I wondered in the second half whether we turned it into a training match. Like you said, I thought we were going to sit in and break, because that's how.
Then I could have understood.
Kevin Hatchard said Eintracht will press us. There's going to be a lot on Thursday of us trying to get out of their press. And I wondered whether that's what we were trying to do. You play futsal and you literally have when I used to play futsal or coach a bit of futsal, and you literally say, right,
the glory is, was it?
You have a half, you sit in your half court and you say, right, we are now going to wait for them to come to us. And I wonder whether Ange had said that. We're going to wait for Southampton to come and we're going to play out, because that's what we're going to do on Thursday.
I kind of thought if that had been the philosophy, then he might have been better to have done that against Chelsea.
Yeah.
And then say, right, we've done that against Chelsea, and then against Southampton, we're going to fly at them. But look, it was what it was. I think the game just played out because they were a dreadful team, and we turned up and went, we haven't really got to do much to beat these today. And we didn't.
2 more things I want to talk about very quickly. The penalty, Johnson wanted it, Tell took it. There will obviously be, Tell just didn't take it, I'm having it, it's mine. There would have been a discussion, I suspect, that if this one's not on the pitch and that one's not on the pitch, you take it. Johnson's got one senior hat-trick against Lincoln years ago. Where are you on? I'm on a hat trick. You should take it, or do you stick to protocol? And no, that's the guy who's taking
stick to protocol.
Yeah, but it's still up to the guy who is,
of course,
down to do it.
Tell's going to want his first Premier League goal, right?
Sure, yeah, but it's also up to Tell to go, no, mate, go on, knock your hat trick in. And I've seen some people say, oh, well, that just shows you what Johnson, if a real killer would have just grabbed the ball off him.
I don't like seeing players fighting.
And that's what Johnson said afterwards. He was like, these situations can get messy. Like, I wasn't going to, because he also said, which I hadn't thought about, the more pressure, if he puts pressure on Tell to let him take it, if Tell then takes it, knowing that Johnson's really pissed off, then it plays on Tell's mind. You can screw up.
That's why you stick to protocol.
That's why you stick to protocol.
That's why. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, but it's also still, it's up to Tell if he wants to go Johnson.
Tell can turn, 100% correct.
Yeah.
Tell can turn around and say, right, this is my penalty, but actually,
you do.
If you want your hat trick, if you fancy it, it's up to you.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But if Tell is there as the man on the protocol to take the penalty, then, and he says, yeah, I want it, end of, that's it, done.
I do wonder if it's 1-1 or 0-1. I mean, Johnson wouldn't want a penalty at 1-1 or 0-1 probably, but maybe Tell might not have been so keen to take it, knowing it was the last kick of the game. But it's protocol.
Decent enough pen.
Yeah, I'm still not sure about these run-ups, but...
I didn't like the run-up at all.
And a positive and a potential negative, but I'm going to turn the negative into a positive. I thought Bergvall was excellent.
Superb.
What a footballer he's becoming.
Superb. And he's an absolute animal as well. People don't realise how physical he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it comes across when, like, again, when watching him live, I noticed at first, I said, against Newcastle, when he was bullying Joel Linton, and he was bullying Joel Linton, and Joel Linton wasn't used to it and didn't like it. And to me, Joel Linton is the biggest bully and the biggest thug in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And he bullied him. Like Bergvall was having none of it from him, gave it back to a point where Joel Linton was like, I don't know if I fancy this.
Yeah.
And yesterday, he crashed through players, crashed through them. Like he
needs to
to
temper
a
it a
point where
little
it's
bit.
like,
Yeah.
mate, you're going to get yourself injured, and
well,
we
with
really
Burke
can't have
sent
you
off.
injured.
Yeah.
It does. Him playing 80 minutes yesterday, though, says a lot. Goes back to the Chelsea game that pissed everyone off. Obviously, that's why he took him off, because he wanted him to have a big impact yesterday, and he's obviously going to start on.
Yeah. He's
next
almost.
Thursday,
He's arguably
which
one of our most
explains.
important.
But the
players.
booing of taking Bergvall off on last Thursday.
I think it's different when
Obviously
you're
with
1-0 down at Chelsea.
No,
when you're at 2-0 up at
all I'm
Southampton,
saying
we can
is,
agree
all I'm
with it.
saying is, he obviously in Ange's mind, he's planned ahead and gone.
Yeah,
well, I
but-
want Bergvall to actually play all 3 games, but he can't play 180 minutes. 200. What's 90 times
but
three?
I think
3 games,
270.
270
I think if you
minutes.
keep Bergvall on against Chelsea on the basis that you want to try and get a point out of it, because we're only 1-0 down, right?
Yeah.
Try and get a point out of it, and then Bergvall doesn't start against
Correct.
Southampton. Then you're like, okay, I'll take that, right?
Yeah.
But I think that was the issue. But without a question, Berryvale has grown and really
yeah.
grown, and has shown again. You know, I think if you went to sign a player of that quality this summer, you're looking at 50, 60 million minimum, right? And that's why sometimes these players, they're worthwhile going to get. You two are having sign language. between you.
Jake needs to go. I don't know how long he's got. This is live podcasting.
You do?
Not long.
No, not long.
Okay. Stop giving long answers then.
That's me, my fault. Sorry, Jake.
No, sorry, Gary.
No, that's it. I just think he's a crucial player, along with Kulusevski and Van der Ven. Are, one of the 3 most crucial players in the team.
All right, very quickly on Solanke. He's getting a bit of tap on social media. Hasn't scored for 6 games, which is his joint longest run. I think he needs to hold the ball up better. He's getting pinged 30-yard passes with nobody around him. But actually, when I watched the highlights back on Match of the Day, if you just watch Match of the Day, you'd be like, Solanke had a good game. So for me, there's a really good player in there. Needs
Who's
to
giving
score.
him stick?
The ball bounced off of him a lot yesterday. If you watch the game fully back,
Yeah, well, it wasn't at the game. It didn't look like his best game, but then he does other things where he takes it in, turns his man, brings another player in. I think Ange made a comment.
Is very good.
Ange made a comment about us letting Brennan Johnson down by not getting the ball to him enough in the box. I found that funny. I think we're letting Solanke down quite a lot by not getting him any service at all in areas where he can claim a bit of glory or whatever it is. But he is another key component of the team. You'd feel much more confident with Solanke in the team than out the team. So how much stick he's getting, should be grateful that he's there, because if he's not there, it's somebody else that we don't want.
bit of breaking news. Apparently, Juric has left Southampton, unconfirmed. Romano reporting it and Sky Sports News reporting
Hang
it.
on, so that's twice we've done that in this season.
What a goddamn manager.
Was their previous manager left after we
Russell
thumped them?
Martin left.
After we shellacked them.
We've done the double.
So we've beaten Southampton, 8-1 this season, but it's 7-0 at half time.
Yeah.
We take our foot off the gas. All right, I know you got to go, Jake. Very quickly, we've got another game, massive game on Thursday. We had a great
We've
chat
got
with
the game.
the
on
game that we've been.
Thursday.
Yeah, now we're at everything else. This is the one. We had a great chat with Kevin Hatchard, German football expert, German football commentator. We're going to put that out as a special, an in the know special. Kevin's great for your Eintracht Frankfurt fix. Listen to that. But
Should you need
it's
one.
a massive game. I know you got to go, Jake. Quick thoughts on that.
Wouldn't read much into how we've played in the league. I think that I said this last week. I think the fans will be up for it. The players will be up for it. I think we'll see a different Tottenham. I think we'll see something closer to the Tottenham that we want to see, which we did see a bit of against Alkmaar. I know Alkmaar aren't very good, but I think we're going to see lots of high pressing, lots of quick transitions. They'll press us, we'll press them. According to Kev, they don't keep many clean sheets.
No, 1 in 12.
I think there'll be goals in it. I fancy us at home. I worry about us over two legs having to play
We've got
away.
to almost try and win the tie on Thursday. I'm fascinated
Which
by
I think is tough.
It's an ask.
What's winning the tie on Thursday?
a couple of goals ahead at least.
At least.
I'm fascinated by what you said. We'll see a different Tottenham. There's been such malaise for weeks and weeks. I'm really looking forward to the game. I've not looked forward to the game for a long time. I didn't really look forward to that Alkmaar game
Because I think you sort of know what I'm saying, don't you? Yeah.
It's the Tottenham we all want these big nights. We want these big occasions. We want these. They're not a massive team, but big European teams to come to us. We've got to see a different Tottenham all round. Off the pitch, on the pitch, fans have got to be up for it. Players have got to be up for it. Manager's got to do his job, and hopefully Eintracht don't turn up.
Yeah. Do you want to go before I start?
No, go on.
You guys spoke with Kevin, so you probably know more than myself. Look, it's a game. I think the whole atmosphere in the stadium is going to be entirely different to what it was on the weekend.
Of course. And for not just the weekend, for a long time.
For a long time. The people that I've been speaking to, myself, massively up for it. I'm really looking forward to Thursday. Like, I'm dead excited for it. I think Frankfurt are a better team than Lazio. So the incentive is there. Beat Frankfurt and we should have every feeling that we can beat Lazio and get to the final.
You're assuming Lazio don't beat Norway's Bodo Glimt?
I'm assuming that Lazio do beat Bodo Glimt, yeah. But, the incentive is there. I think Frankfurt are better than Lazio. I think that's borne out in the fact they're third in the Bundesliga at the minute, having a very good season. Lazio are like sixth in a pretty poor Serie A, in my view. I mean, Roma are, I think, one place above them now, having started the season really badly. It's everything to play for. I don't know enough about Frankfurt. You guys spoke with Kevin, but if it is nothing less than full-hearted, 100%, really flying at them, giving it everything. If we don't come off that pitch, if we're not in the studio, I mean, I won't be on Friday, but if you guys aren't in the studio on Friday saying they gave it everything, then that's an utter disgrace.
I think they will.
I think if we don't get the result we want, I don't think it will be because of that. I think it'll probably be because we've been made errors being pressed.
But there's two things, isn't it? There's not getting the result you want, but playing and really giving it everything.
Yeah.
And there's not getting the result you want and really not looking bothered about getting the result at all.
Who starts in midfield? Burwell, Madison, and
I think it's
definitely
going to be Burwell, Madison, Bentancur. I think it will be Son and Oda Bersolanke up front, and the back four will be...
It's got to be Porro, I think, now.
I would play Porro right back and Spence left back.
I also think Spence
is a better left back.
I think he's better at left back because cutting in, I think he's more effective than
possibly so. But Porro was suspect yesterday.
Well, he is.
He is.
But Udogi's quite suspect on over his shoulder left back. So whether it's happening at left back or right back, it's going to happen on
we'll
one
have
side.
This chat at the end of the season when the season's finished. But I don't think there's loads of players this summer where we're like, oh, he's got to go. There's a couple, but I don't think the squad needs like a massive clear out.
We'll do that.
I'd happily do it now, but then you'll be here a lot longer.
Okay. No, I don't want to do it. I think we wait till the end of the season. Soul Sniper Gaming, morning guys. We're about to leave. Jake's got to go. I agree very much with Norman Stanley Fletcher. We've talked about the press, but what he means, press the like button. These boys are very good. I think he's talking about us.
Thank you, Norm.
And to Jorge, look, Brennan may well start, and if he starts, I would back him to score. I wouldn't back him to do anything else at all.
He won't start.
I don't see it. And also just props to James for the brilliant graphic of Ange eating a Frankfurter.
I'm not at breakfast yet. I'm not going to have a Frankfurt with mustard for breakfast, though. It's a bit much.
What are you going to have?
Don't know. Maybe nothing.
Is that because it would need sauerkraut?
Oh, yeah. All right. You're itching to go.
I've got to go.
Where are you going?
Got to go.
Got a mouse to get rid of.
I do.
All right. Sydney Duke reckons Johnson will start. All will be revealed on Thursday. We will be back on Friday to talk about that and to preview Wolves, one of our bogey teams. Isn't it great to have Wolves as one of your bogey teams?
They're on the beach now anyway.
Keep doing what you're doing, Tottenham Hotspur. We will see you on Thursday. Big game on Thursday. We'll see you on Friday. Big game on Thursday night. Look out for Kevin Hatchard's In the Know on Eintracht. It's a really good listen. We will see you Friday, and up the Spurs.